eCapitol News Director Sean Ashley joins us with other news from the state capitol this week. Sean, thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Now, the state election board has the final count of registered voters for Tuesday's election, and lots of Oklahomans are voting early. What's the latest?
Well, the state election board announced on Thursday that 2.1 million voters are registered to vote in this year's general election. That's an increase of about 100,000 since the beginning of the year. Republicans lead. They have about 47.3% of the voters and just over 1 million voters. That number is important because it is the first time since November of 2010 that any one party has had more than 1 million voters. But of course, remember, this is a general election, and the number of registered voters don't determine who wins the races. People still have to go to the polls and still have to vote. And as of Friday afternoon, more than 100,000 Oklahomans have, either by mail-in ballot or in early voting at their county election boards.
That's a lot of people for the midterm.
It certainly is. It looks like it may be a very high election year for a gubernatorial race.
Now, on another subject, the Department of Corrections, they have some big numbers in their new fiscal year budget request. What's up with that?
Yeah, that's right. One of the big things that the new governor will have to deal with are all the budget requests. And for the third year in a row, the State Board of Corrections has asked for more than $1 billion in funding. In fact, they asked for $1.57 billion. This fiscal year, they only received $517 million after asking for in excess of $1 billion for the current fiscal year. We've all heard, of course, of the prison overcrowding and the housing and bed needs of the State Department of Corrections. A big part of their requests would go to meet those needs. They also have concern about hepatitis C infections among inmates, and so there's money to provide vaccinations and treatment and care for those individuals, and there's also money provided for additional pay increases for correctional officers and other Department of Corrections staff.
Hundreds of new laws took effect November the 1st, and if you could just tell us some of the big changes that are coming.
Well, it really depends on where you look. There's a little bit for everyone in these laws that take effect. Probably one of the biggest areas being affected are 4 bills which affect opioid prescriptions in the state. They place tighter controls on them, and an individual who is prescribed an opioid will have to visit their doctor more frequently in order to get that prescription refilled. Some doctors are concerned that this may pose a problem for those who live in rural areas and rely upon physicians in more urban areas for their care, because they'll have to travel more frequently to those larger communities in order to have those prescriptions refilled. Perhaps most importantly, the big thing, Oklahoma now has an official state raptor as the result of the efforts of a 10-year-old boy, Ephraim Bowling. The legislature declared the red-tailed hawk the state raptor for the state of Oklahoma, and that bill took effect November 1st.
Sean Ashley of the eCapitol News, thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome.